life, and not so much about his research. I think everybody knows most about his research. But a lot of people are trying to find pictures of Burt, and well, I found the mother lode. So, well, I was trying to figure out how am I going to start this talk. I was, talking with one of my buddies, and he said, "We'll just start off saying that he was born in the horse and buggy days." I'll start there, but I'll say it's not true. Actually, cars were around. And this is a great picture of Burt, 10 months old, with his mother, in a cornfield in West Virginia. And that's, I think it's about 1935. And my wife, she saw this picture and she said, "That is the cutest picture of Burt." And I'll let you be the judge. I will say the good looks did not skip a generation. These are Burt's 3 daughters. The eldest on the left is Cindy. She has 3 boys. The middle and on the right is Debbie. She works in Hollywood, actually, and she's worked on TV shows like Nash Bridges, you know that one, or Cold Cases. And the youngest is Karen, and don't be fooled by appearances. She's actually really tough. She's a forensic psychologist. Jodie Foster's character on Silence of the Lambs. That's and we have the latest generation. We have Cindy's boys on the left. It's Austin, Jacob in the middle, and Eric on the right. And then the latest addition is Karen's boy, Cameron. And I'm actually glad that Burt has 3 daughters, because I don't just go to him for advice about Catalysis. This is my daughter, Gwendolyn. And she's 2 years old. She's in the terrible twos. And Burt, we're still working on those boundaries we can talk about. And of course, here we have Burt's better half, Burt Davis. And you can tell by this photo and one we're going to show in the slideshow later that she's a very daring lady. Getting back to Burt's childhood, he was born in Points, West Virginia. And it's aptly named because you need about all 4 points on the compass to find this place. If we zoom in, okay, it's in the panhandle of West Virginia. And we zoom in a little further, you can get an idea of the practical names given by the West Virginians. So up here, it's a little bit flatter. They call it levels. Here's like a cluster of 3 churches. And there's the points, right in the middle. And if you zoom in further, I grew up in a military family, and we used to judge the sizes of small towns by the number of McDonald's that they had. 2 McDonald's town or 3 McDonald's town. Points was kind of 0 McDonald's town, but it did have a general store, which served as also a gas station and a post office. So it was like an all-in-one. And by the way, Burt, I figured out how Points got its name. It's because the Springfield Pike and the Jersey Mountain Road come together in Points. These are Burt's parents, Lawrence Davis and Grace Davis. And Burt's father worked on apple orchards and peach orchards. And sadly, Burt lost his father when he was 12 years old. And this lady, Grace Davis, she was a strong influence in Burt's life. And she encouraged him, all along the way. And she made a lot of sacrifices for Burt and his 4 younger siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And also his grandparents, helped to raise Burt and his siblings, and he remembers them very fondly. I actually found a picture of an apple storage shed from the 1930s. This was, the Depression era and going into the war. And Burt actually, Burt's worked hard all his life, and he actually started working in peach orchards when he was 9 years old. This is a picture of that general store I was talking about, and obviously it's seen better days. But you can kind of imagine Burt taking his horse named Pet. Remember I was talking about practical West Virginia names? He had a horse named Pet. And he would tie the horse to the post there. But to get on the horse, he had to climb up on the balcony or on the barrier there and jump on his horse. And I learned a lot about this general store, working with Burt over 13 years. One day Burt was telling me, you remember those manual gas pumps? I'm like, what? No, Burt, I don't remember those. Well, I did some searching on the internet, and I found pictures of them. And actually, they go for thousands of dollars now. They're called antiques. But anyway, so they used to pump the gas manually. This crank here into the glass balloon, just like he said, and then it would gravity drain into the tank of the car. I sure like these gas prices here. 13 cents a gallon, something like that. My wife said that she thinks they look like candy dispensers. And also I learned some interesting other stories about that period. Burt one day was telling me about how they, back then they used everything. They didn't waste things like we do. Well, we tried to recycle, right? But the feed bags would come in bags that had printed material, and the women would use these to make dresses. And they'd also upholster furniture with. I think some of these are actually quite nice. You could tell who the siblings were back then by the similarity of the prints on the dresses. Here's a picture of Burt in the first grade, and I think he would fit right into this group over here. And Burt went to school in a 4-room school. And it doesn't exist anymore, but I did find some pictures of similar schools. Times were so tough back then that actually they had to reduce their staff. They only had 3 teachers in 4 rooms at one time. And they were teaching elementary school all the way up through middle school. So the classes were combined. And this was kind of advantageous for Burt, because while he was in 2nd grade, he was learning 3rd grade material, and when he was in 3rd grade, he was learning 4th grade material, and he actually skipped a grade, or maybe 2, I'm not sure. There's an urban legend about that. There's a picture of Burt's actual school on a gravestone, and Burt's comment to me was, who says West Virginians don't take education seriously? Here's a picture of Burt as a young teenager, and he looks really happy in this photo. I think it's maybe when he found out, he was accepted to college, because in the next photo, here's Burt in college at 16 years old. He's in a chemistry class here. That's at West Virginia University. I don't know if you can see him, but he's right there. See him? Well, I got halfway through college and ran out of funds. And the Korean War was going on at that time. And Burt didn't hesitate. He volunteered for the draft. And he joined the 101st Airborne Division. And this is a picture of Burt during basic training, Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And this is another picture of him and his buddies. He's right here. And there was a company of 200 men, and they moved from Fort Jackson to Fort Smith, Arkansas. And it was split into 3 groups. Well, one of the groups, the African American detachment, was sent over to Europe. Well, one day, they lined up the rest of them into 2 lines. And every other man was sent to Korea. And fortunately for us, Burt wasn't one of them. And he joined a medical detachment and 30 men. And, well, he was sent to Fort Hood, Texas, in the middle of the summer. And it was up in the 110s. I lived in Central Texas, so I know what he's talking about. And, the ground was cracking and the car on the, pavement was bubbling, and then the floods would come. But, so he doesn't really have fond memories of Central Texas. But he got through it, and 2 years later, he went back to school because the GI Bill was in place then. And he was able to finish college in West Virginia. And then he went to go work for Atlantic in Philadelphia. And I guess he got bored or something because he started taking evening classes to do his master's degree. But when Burt does something, he goes all out, as you know. And he was actually working full-time during the day and going to school full-time in the evening. And what I mean by full-time is he qualified for GI Bill benefits. And he did work on isotopic tracers with Joseph Fan on N-heptane dehydrocyclization. And then Burt expressed an interest in getting his PhD. So one day, Joseph Fan calls him down to his office and told him that he would be going to Florida. And Burt didn't ask any questions. He just went. And he was very happy to do so. And he worked with Wallace Bray at the University of Florida in Gainesville. And he worked on thorium oxide as a catalytic material. And he worked on like alcohol conversion as Professor Leclerc was talking about earlier today. Well, then he got a break, few of us can imagine. He got to do a postdoctorate with Paul Emmett at Johns Hopkins University. And a picture of Burt here working in the labs, working in Paul Emmett's lab. And that was the mid-60s. You can tell by the glasses. But he was working on xenon fluoride chemistry, because they found that xenon was not as, inert a gas as it was once thought to be. He also, worked on absorption, of course, and would later go on to comparisons between BT method and mercury core symmetry method. And he also learned a lot more about isotopic tracers from Paul. Obviously, he did a lot of work on that in Fischer-Tropsch synthesis. And this is not the Brat Pack. This is Paul Emmett's group in the mid-60s. And on the left, we have Burt and Barkley, who came up with the method of irradiating metal particles so that they get a higher temperature than the support. George Keltz, well known for oxidation catalysis. There's Burt in the middle, John Wardley and Bob Garton, who is one of the, I guess you could say, founders of Catalytica. And he also wrote a nice review of Paul Emmett back in the mid-80s. And then Burt went to work at Noble, where he joined Charlie Plank's group.